Thank you all. Great to be here today. Thanks, Andy, Sanjay, and team. As Andy was saying, we've worked very closely together over the last few years to roll out our connected worker offering. Just a few items regarding the connected worker. So we're part of a larger organization called Connected Plant. Connected Plant has connected assets, process, and people, or worker. And even further from that, we have connected enterprise, connected plant, connected aircraft, and connected building. Honeywell is striving to be an industrial software company, transforming itself from the inside out. And so the connected worker or connected people offering is a very important part of our larger business. We're incubating it in Honeywell Process Solutions, which we find our automation equipment and our instrumentation side of the business. And then we've expanded it out into the larger Honeywell, into aerospace, construction, and other parts. I want to talk a little bit today about the digital transformation and how we are helping our customers move along in that digital transformation. Everyone's in a different place. I've spent the last 2 years in Honeywell traveling about 85% of the time, visiting customers with RealWear headset in hand, and great response. Everyone's in a different place. Some are just getting started, some are further along. All are struggling in one form or another with these concepts: cloud, digitization, virtualization, connectivity, and in some way, virtual and augmented reality. Connectivity is a very big piece of that. Carl mentioned it today from Cisco. Others have mentioned it, what 5G is going to bring to the table. A lot of the plants where Honeywell works are not connected today. So all of our software solutions on the RealWear device have to work both in online and offline mode, at least for the foreseeable future. It's very important to come to the customer with realistic expectations about their connectivity, Wi-Fi, and 4G, and later 5G. Digitalization. Most of refining and petrochem today is still driven by paper. When you do an inspection round, when you do an operator round, when you do a maintenance activity, everything is paper-driven. Even if it's digital. If you have all your information in SAP, they go to the control room and they print out a sheet of paper and they write it by hand. Then they bring it back, type it back in, and it goes back to SAP. So even the digital part of the transformation is still quite manual. The other area, cloud, is something that still our customers are struggling with. So we have to have an on-premise solution available for all our applications for the RealWear device also. I would say close to half are not quite ready for the cloud. We're talking about these big industrial companies in refining and petrochem, pulp and paper, pharmaceuticals, and other areas. So we have to meet the customer where they're at. And with that, we need to provide both on-prem and cloud-based solutions. Of course, there's a lot more cost to an on-prem solution. What does it mean on-prem? It could just mean that you're behind the customer's firewall, or it could mean you have to have physical servers on site at the refinery or petrochem plant. So on-premise can mean different things to different companies, and you have to address each and every one of those. So what drives the connected worker at Honeywell? It's these megatrends. Everything we'll see in the presentation today comes in one form or factor from these 4 megatrends. And I've personally been able to talk to over 100 large industrial companies about these megatrends, and they've been verified over and over. Number 1, loss of knowledge. And we've talked about this, the retiring workforce, the great crew change. In oil and gas, it's quite extreme. 50 to 55% of the workforce is due to retire in the next 5 years. All of that knowledge of 30, 40 years in the plant is retiring. We're almost in crisis mode right now. We've talked about this for a few years, but we're at the point now, if we don't do something, there's going to be major issues around safety and around productivity. The new millennial workforce thinks and works in a different way. They're very good with the digital technologies. Imagine if you're very savvy, you're an engineer, a petroleum engineer just out of college, and you're very excited to start your first day. you're really good with your iPad and your cell phone and all these technologies. You leave it in your car, you pick up a piece of paper and a pencil, and you start scribbling notes. That's not retaining talent. What you'll find is they'll go on to the next company that will provide them a better way to use these new digital technologies. Job retention rates. The average training period for a new millennial is 6 to 12 months. I verified up to 24 months. And they stay in the job probably around 2 years. So you have about a year of quality time with that new worker. And so all of these things come together, all these megatrends, into a series of issues that not just oil and gas, but many other industries are facing. And finally, active versus passive learning methods. Learning by seeing and listening provides about 20 to 30% retention rate after 3 months. So after 3 months of watching videos and looking at PowerPoints, chances are all that knowledge is gone. Active learning methods, on the other hand, practice by doing, and particularly things like virtual reality, which we'll share in a moment, how we're using virtual reality and the RealWear device together in the same platform, provides that codification of sight and sound and touch and feel in some respects, so that that knowledge stays with you much, much longer. So, just to summarize, knowledge is walking at the door at an incredible rate. The technology is available today, and there's a continuous need to perform and to improve in performance. And so, we validated this several times over, 40% of mechanical failures can be avoided today with better inspection programs. So let's think about what's done today. The digital worker of tomorrow and what's done today. Today, it's all paper-driven. There's no traceability as to what people are doing, when they're doing it. If there's no issue during the day, that piece of paper, after it's transcribed to an Excel sheet or something, is put in a box for maybe several years or several weeks. And that's only taken out when there's an issue. And who would we point the finger at when there's something happens in the plant? So there's a lot we can do to improve the situation of the connected worker. So to talk a little bit about what we're trying to do at Honeywell, it's combining training and competency and productivity and safety in this single platform, a single data lake. So we start over on the right-hand side here, where using things like the RealWear HMT-1 and HMT-1Z1, we're beginning to find where people are working, what they're doing, how long it's taking each step in a process, comparing that to their colleagues and workers around the world. I was at a silicon plant recently, and they had an issue where they went from step 5 and step 6 in the digital workflow. They realized that it took 2 to 3 weeks to go from step 5 to step 6. When they started looking at that data across the globe, when they started to use digital technology, they realized everyone is missing a couple of weeks between step 5 and step 6. And in fact, the issue was a supply chain parts issue. And they immediately were able to resolve it. And all of a sudden, step 5 to step 6 took 15 minutes rather than days and days. So there's so many benefits that we'll see over time. And I was having lunch with a colleague, and we were talking about, we really don't know how all of this will pan out. What sorts of efficiencies will gain? What sorts of safety will improve? Only when we're actually in there doing it in full scale when we'll really know the true benefits. A lot of this is still hypothetical. We understand it anecdotally. When we see it in full force, I think it's going to be very impactful. So imagine we're starting to measure the individual in the field, what they're doing, and we start to measure the gaps in competency. Their skill is not up to speed. Think about a pilot who hasn't flown a 787 in over a year. What does he have to do by law? He has to go into the training simulator, spend maybe a couple of days to a week to get up to speed on that cockpit, on those control systems, before he can go out and fly that plane. Same idea here. We see a skills gap. That individual maintenance person has not worked on this equipment in over a year. He has to go through some virtual reality training. So we start to measure skills gap with things like the HMT-1, the RealWear device. We call them in Honeywell the intelligent wearable. That's our name for it, okay? So I'll start calling it the intelligent wearable for the rest of the talk here. When you find that skills gap, you immediately move to a virtual reality or other type of training, and voila, that person's up to speed and ready to do their job. So this is a seamless, what we call a virtuous circle of finding skills gaps, addressing them, and going back out into the field and doing the work. So we've attacked a number of key competencies or key personas or individuals in the plant. We started with control systems and the control room operator and a number of key persons creating this virtuous loop that I'm speaking about. And now we're branching out into maintenance, inspection, compliance, reliability experts, all of which are going to be part of this larger global implementation of this continuous loop of competency, productivity, and safety. So a little bit about the connected worker. These are some of the concepts. This is one of my favorite slides. There's Joe, the connected worker. And around him are a series of technologies that help that worker be smarter, safer, and better at his job. We start on the left at the bottom, well, a little bit above that, inspection rounds and maintenance rounds. That's your workflow. Competency management, when we're talking about doing training at the back end and in the front end. Video assist, which is a software package that I'll talk about in just a moment. Worker analytics, bringing all that data to the cloud. Where I'm working, what I'm doing, what my colleagues, and comparing notes between maybe hundreds, even thousands of workers in the same area to see where efficiencies can be had. Expert on call. Then we have wearables, handhelds, as different types of mobile devices. And finally, things like location tracking, geo-fencing, thermal imaging, radio over IP, replacing your walkie-talkie with an app in the HMT-1 or HMT-1Z1 that allows you essentially to have that communications with others in the field. Now, we were thinking of, how can we benefit from doing this other than the fact that you don't have to carry another device and another battery. Working with a customer in the North Sea, we found out that they're using it in a way whereby not only the folks out on the offshore platform can talk to each other, but for the first time in history, all of the senior folks and operations folks onshore in the North Sea in Oslo are able to also have that conversation because it's an internet-based communication protocol. So things we never would have thought about are starting to benefit as we introduce these new technologies. Gas detection. Honeywell is the #1 provider of gas detectors in the world. We have integrated now the gas detection system into the HMT-1. We have integrated geolocation and geofencing into the HMT-1. And just in a few weeks, we'll announce the biometric measuring on the HMT-1Z1, essentially wearing a Honeywell, underneath your clothes, a Honeywell bioharness that measures multiple types of things like temperature and respiration and fatigue and all sorts of things, and bringing those to the cloud and making it available to warn both folks that are off-site as well as the individual in this hot environment. If you ever worked in a refinery in Houston where it's over 100 degrees at night, plus you add what's going on around you in terms of combustion, it could be 120 degrees walking around the facility. And if you're in a not a healthy state, there could be trouble. And many times you're by yourself, out doing things. How do you know? So, which is that last question about man down when we're talking about these things. So a little bit about our relationship, Honeywell and RealWear. We have a co-branded device, both the ruggedized and the intrinsically safe device. You can see the Honeywell red there and some gray. I really like this design that they put together. It's being deployed across the globe in our Connected Worker program. Portfolio of applications. This is what we have today at Honeywell. We've got our expert on call, which we all know, the video capability between the user in the field and someone else in the field or an expert in the corporate office. Video assist, the ability to capture video in small snippets, add metadata to that, and have it searchable in real time, like your Google or your Alexa, give me the video procedures for draining this pump. And you'll see a list of maybe 150 steps, all in video format. And through the viewfinder, you're able to see, oh, show me steps 6 through 10. That's what I'm interested in. I don't need to look at an hour and a half of video to get where I'm going. And this brings us back to the whole question about applying these, what are these megatrends? One of the key megatrends is about taking the data, the information, the heads of these experts before they retire, and putting them into the field with these younger workers. And having a corpus of video procedures is one way. You know, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is probably worth about 10,000. When you want to fix your garage door opener, first thing you do is pull out your phone or your tablet, you put it down, and you watch it over and over, step by step. Rewind 4 seconds, see it again, until you've actually fixed the problem, right? Same idea here. We call it industrial YouTube. We can't use the word YouTube formally because it's already taken, obviously, right? Video assist, similar to, or document assist, similar to video assist, except you're connecting into any document management system on the market through an API. So Documentum, in any particular environment, in any plant environment, there may be 3 or 4 different document management systems. It's about connecting that information. We saw how beautifully the RealWear device is able to view and navigate these documents. And perfect segue from the last video that we saw, where the young worker being poured on with rain and afterwards goes out and is able to do things so much more efficiently. And finally, inspection rounds and planning dashboard. Honeywell acquired a company about 5 years ago called Mobilizer. It's one of the leading workflow solutions, and we have now integrated that into that. So, expert on call. This is really interesting. I've been traveling a lot, sharing this technology. This is obviously the LibreStream Cube, which is out in the market recently. The Zone 1 intrinsically safe version is out now. It wirelessly connects to the RealWear device and allows you to see things you could never see with the naked eye. And the response from our customers is tremendous. They're like, I was with a customer the other day, and it said he had 70 use cases. Today, what happens? They have to get a hot work permit. It takes 2 days to get the camera out there to take one photo. Then they send it back for someone to analyze and say, well, this pump or this, the overheating or this corrosion in this pipe, etc. Now it can be done on demand in real time. So here's an example. Here is a pipe that's covered. It's insulated pipe, so you cannot see anything underneath. This is week 5. You look over in week 30, and you'll see the scale on the right-hand side from minus 35 to 60 degrees Celsius. And you'll notice there's a hot spot here, such that pipe is about to burst. You would never know that with the naked eye. What we're doing is some video analytics so that the cloud will be able to determine this without human intervention, which I think is very exciting. Again, a little more about video assist. Editing video. That video can come from many different sources. Many times it will come from the HMT-1 actually recording. And you can say pause, throw out some keywords, convert those to metadata. It attaches that video clip, goes to the cloud for further editing. Afterwards, there's a governance process whereby you would have it approved by a series of people to be, you might call it the YouTube channel of best practices. This is the day in the life using our Mobilizer platform. The maintenance worker is assigned his task, step 1. Number 2, once goes out into the field, he receives everything he needs to do that task. Number 3, someone else is preparing the tools because they've been notified. Step 4, geolocating through the best route to get the maintenance work done. Step 5, the actual documents, data that's needed. And step 6, completion, and the supervisor gets word that it's complete. This has been out in the market a few years and now available on the HMT-1. Document assist, connecting to any depository. And finally, just to close, I have negative seconds now. We talk about the transformation in the digital world. And we talk about AI, we talk about machine learning, vision analytics. We will never take the human person out of the picture. The human person will always be at the center. They're making the key decisions, to being better informed, safer. And so the connected worker is truly that. It's bringing the technology into the field to transform the way each and every one of us works. Thank you very much.